Hello, my night guards, and welcome back to Crash Talk. I'm your host and the curator of this internet museum, Ayana. Now, if you do not know much about me, first of all, welcome to my channel. Second of all, I just need to say, I have to get this out in the open, that I am a nerd. No one is surprised. And in particular, I am a history nerd. When I tell you back in 2006, when I first saw the first of the films that we're going to be talking about today, Night at the Museum, I was hooked, Your Honor. Museums, history coming to life. Oh, I was having a great time. Now, we are going to be talking about all three films in this video today. We're back with the tried and true film recaps. Honestly, it feels really good. It feels really good to be holding this mic right now. It does. I pulled it out. I was like, ooh, I'm back to myself. Before we begin, I have to say, okay, not all of these films were made equal. They really were not. So I don't want you who just rewatched them because they're on Netflix now to look at me and go, wow, girl, this is what you were at. This is what you were doing. My childhood memory, my adult brain, they were beefing, okay? But either way, I cannot not make this video. Do you know what I mean? Like, I cannot not have this video exist on my channel. My brain simply won't let me. It has to be in my collection. It has to be in my internet museum, if you will. So, strap in, because we're going to be talking about all three movies today. So get cozy, get a little snack. Let's get into it.
I am Larry.
Now, the OG Night at the Museum film, 2006. This film was directed by Shawn Levy, and when I first watched this movie, or I guess rewatched this movie, that name was sticking out my head, and I was like, why do I know this director? I know this director because his rap sheet is bonkers, Your Honor. Big Fat Liar, Cheaper by the Dozen, Night at the Museum. He was also a producer of Arrival, and not only that, but he was also the executive producer for the entire run of the Stranger Things show. I don't know why I said it like that, which is just like bonkers to me. So he be flip-flopping, jumping genres, he be hopping, he be jumping, he be jumping. You get it. The original Night at the Museum, as I said, came out in 2006, and it was actually a box office success. My initial intuition was to be very surprised that it was one of the highest grossing films of 2006. And then I thought about it a little harder, and I was like, you know what? Like, kids' movies kind of make sense that they would be high grossing films, because it doesn't really matter what genre a kids' movie is. Very rarely are you not going to go see a kids' movie if you are a child. Like, you're just gonna kind of go and see all kids movies. But what is bonkers to me is the fact that this movie was higher grossing than Cars, the original Cars. And like, not to gas up Disney, we can gas up Pixar, not to gas up Disney too much, but that's really crazy to me. The original Ka-Chow, this movie beat it. That's insane. So this film is actually based off a children's book that came out in 1993 by Milan Tronk. It follows the same sort of premise, a night guard at a museum, and some of the exhibits start going missing, but in particular in the children's book, it's just like the dinosaur skeletons are going missing, but obviously in Night at the Museum, it's all of the exhibits that come to life. Now, if there is one thing that I love about Night at the Museum, it's the cast. Ben Stiller, Robin Williams. From the moment that you see the lineup of this film, you know that you're in for a good time because they're all like renowned comedy actors. Also, a lot of the actors actually come back for pretty much every film, which I just think is always so yummy to me. And a lot of the production actually comes back for the different sequels that they have, which I also find really fascinating because I'm not sure how common it was in the 2000s, but I definitely know that if films take breaks in between production, especially as long as they did for something like the third movie in this series, then the production tends to shift, names attached to it tends to shift, but they stay pretty tried and true with like Shawn Levy for directing, Chris Columbus is a producer, we have Alan Silverstein, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he did the music, he did the score, so It's really interesting that they managed to keep a lot of the same sort of production going on. Once again, that does not make the films equally good, but we'll talk about it when we get there. The film begins with a credit sequence over the skyline of New York, which is honestly very reminiscent of Mortal Instruments to me. And we meet some of our main characters, most notably the character that Ben Stiller plays, aka Larry Daly, who is unfortunately in his flop era. We also meet Paul Rudd's character, who it's just basically a cameo, so not super important. What's most important is that he's going to be the new stepdad to Larry's kid, Nick. He's a successful bond trader. He goes with Nick to career day. So it's looking like Nick is a little bit embarrassed of his actual dad and his jobless behavior.
Mom was talking to Don about all your different schemes.
She called them schemes?
You're just an ordinary guy who should get a job.
Jobless behavior, Larry Daly goes to the employment office trying to find a job because, as we all know from Mike's Elations chapter 3 verse 5, it's one thing to be unemployed and it's another thing to be jobless, and we simply can't have both. Like, we simply cannot have both. So he goes, and the lady at the desk is not convinced that he is going to find anything that he's actually going to hold down and stick with, but she sends him off to this job that she has at the Natural History Museum. Quick sidebar that's not even really a sidebar. I love the Natural History Museum. I used to go to New York a lot when I was a kid. My grandparents used to live there. They have since retired to Florida, as old people do. And when we were younger, me and my sister, I have 3 distinct locations from that time of my life just like nailed in my head. The Natural History Museum, the Brooklyn Public Library, and some random playground in Queens that had like a metal playset. So when we used to go in the summer, we were just burning our legs. We were just burning our legs. New York. I recently went to New York for the first time since I was a kid, and I did not get to visit the Natural History Museum, and I'm honestly really sad about it, but that just means that I'll have to go back to New York. I did, however, come and get to go to the Met, and I saw the last day of the Superfine exhibit, so shout out. And I was like, oh my gosh, so Gossip Girl. So New York rom-com slay. So at the Natural History Museum, we meet more of our characters that'll have more of a role later. 1, we meet pretty docent lady Rebecca, and 2, we meet the very high-strung director of the museum, Dr. McPhee. Okay, Nanny McPhee slay. We also meet our old night guards, Cecil Fredericks, Gus, and Reginald. Now, these guys say that since the museum is downsizing and they're getting retired early, you know, it's going to be Larry's job to come in and just be the singular night guard on duty. Pause. There's some math that we'll get to when we get to the 3rd film about how old these guys are at this point that just makes you go, now why weren't they retiring earlier? And now listen, I don't think you have to retire. I think most people don't want to work for their entire life, so they want to retire, but it's just kind of crazy to me. Once I did the math, I was like, also, once they do, like, have their retirement, they just start partying all the time. Every scene that we cut to with them, they're partying. So I'm like, so you guys wanted to go. You were ready to go. But anyways, Larry immediately kind of gets what the fuck vibes from them. And so do we. They're saying things to each other like, do we think he's the one? They're giving him battered instruction manuals for a job that should ostensibly just be walking around with a flashlight. They're talking to one of the monkeys in the Africa exhibit like it can really hear them.
Very cool.
It is indeed, Larry. Very cool. All right.
Night 1 at the museum begins, and Larry is immediately goofing around. Immediately goofing around. He just can't shake this jobless behavior. At some point, an entire T-Rex skeleton disappears, and he only notices after we, the audience, notices. Now, 2 things about this scene. 1, he's singing, or I guess humming, the song Dem Bones as he walks around. Right, cinema. And 2, he makes a David Copperfield reference, which I'm like, would the kids have known who David Copperfield was? I certainly barely know who that is now. It's a magician. He's a magician, by the way, in case you were wondering. The dinosaur is alive. And luckily for Larry, the genre of film that he's in is kids film, and the genre of film is not the sci-fi classic 1993 film Jurassic Park, because if it was, he'd be very dead. But instead, the dinosaur just wants to play. So Larry, who is, understandably freaked out, calls Cecil and is like, bestie, what the fuck is going on? Cecil's like, read the instructions. Instruction number 1, throw the bone.
What bone?
Also, like, one finger in the air for the CGI and the costuming and the makeup in this film. I don't know why. I always watch old films and I see, like, the CGI or, like, the special effects, the practical effects in general. And when they're so clean, I'm so impressed. And I feel like I shouldn't be that impressed. Because, we have Transformers, which was the first one was 2007, which has incredible CGI. I think I don't have an understanding of how quickly special effects have progressed. But I digress. The night, of course, only continues to get stranger. Stranger things, if you will, Sean Levy. The dinosaur's alive. The exhibits are alive. Teddy Roosevelt is alive. The weird cotton Civil War soldiers, they're alive. The animals in the exhibits are alive. The Easter Island head, Your Honor.
Hey! Dum-dum.
Yes?
You give me gum-gum.
I give you gum-gum?
You do dum-dum. You give me gum-gum.
I cannot explain how much of a hold Dum Dum Give Me Gum Gum had on the kids in 2006. Like, you simply had to be there. Larry, being the flop that he is, makes it through only about 3 of the instructions before he completely loses the manual. It gets stolen from him by the trickster little monkey Dexter when he's trying to lock up the lions from the Africa exhibit. Now, in this scene, Dexter also bites his nose and pees on him, which it's like, we do have to remember that this was a 2006 kids movie in those moments. We do. Also, I do have to say, although that was not funny, the fact that, like, Dexter tears up the instructions as the other monkeys cheer him on is literally hilarious. Larry, who's not done with his, flop era tour, then gets attacked in the diorama room by these little miniature Mayans and by little miniature Westerners, and we meet my favorite characters in the entire Night at the Museum franchise, Jedediah and Octavius. Oh, jedtavius, my beloved. Oh, jedtavius, my beloved. More on that later. Teddy Roosevelt, who, as I mentioned aforementionedly, is alive, saves Larry from the little diorama friends, and he gives us a very quick rundown on what's happening. He gives us some museum lore, if you will. He tells us that this tablet, this gold tablet of Akhmun-Ra that's in this Pharaoh's exhibit, brings all of the exhibits to life every night, and if any of the exhibits are outside of the museum when the sun comes up, then they turn to dust. Okay. These are things that we need to know. He also helps Larry restore order back to the museum and then gives him a very Spider-Man-esque speech.
Florence.
Yes, sir.
Some men are born great. Others have greatness thrust upon them. For you, this is that very moment.
Larry, as we know, is still in his self-inflicted jobless era, so he is not having it, okay? The next day he plans to quit. The director of the museum is mad at him because there's, like, misplaced sculptures in the diorama exhibit, but he remembers the fact that his son, he will not be able to see his son if he does not get it together. So he decides that he's gonna try for one more night. The old night guards give him the advice to brush up on his history to help him with the fact that the exhibits all come to life. This is where we get an information download scene. I love an information download scene. What web browser is this man using? Who knows? I don't know. It just looks like tabs. Unfortunately for Larry, the old guys are once again being sus, and they ask him to see them out on their last day at the museum, and then Reginald takes a key from Larry's jacket and makes a copy of it. Weird. More on that later. So for night 2, Larry is determined to rock it, okay? He has a plan, all right? Remote control dino bone for the dinosaur that wants to play fetch, all right? Hockey, like, bracer thing for the little Mayans that are shooting poison darts at him. He brings a lighter for the Neanderthals, and it seems like things are going well. He even convinces the miniatures that they can stay out and have fun if they decide not to fight each other anymore. And during this scene, we get what is perhaps one of my favorite lines of the entire film.
You're like a giant, a freak, if you will. We can't expect you to understand that.
Like, guys, the way that Jedediah eats Larry up for this entire film honestly needs to be studied. So while we are glad that Larry tries his very best, it does start quickly going downhill, because while he's doing a simple magic trick for Attila the Hun, who is interested in sorcery and all that kind of stuff, he fucks up the trick. So he is very promptly going to be torn apart. A stampede starts, the Neanderthals are on fire, the miniatures are fighting. Guys, we're taking L's. I almost feel like we need a stronger letter. Okay? F's in the chat. So Larry, once again, is on fuck this mode, but then he sees that one of the Neanderthals have managed to get outside, and so protective dad mode kicks on and, kicks off the light for fuck this mode, and he rushes out to save them, but the sun is already coming up and the Neanderthal turns to dust. I was gonna try and sing Owe Owe like in caveman voice, and then I decided not to, so you can just imagine it in your head. Larry tries to put to right as much as he can. Is feeling very discouraged. That's not helped by the fact that the director comes in the morning, sees the fact that the Neanderthals are covered in like fire extinguisher foam, and promptly fires Larry. What's even more unfortunate is that Larry's son, Nick, had brought a couple of his friends to the museum to brag. You might be wondering, why aren't they at school? Not sure. Don't understand, but it's fine. He brought a couple of his friends to the museum to brag about his dad, and sees his dad getting fired.
Brother, this guy stinks!
F's in the chat. The singular win, I guess, in this moment is that Larry manages to convince the director to give him one more night. Unfortunately, he is on incredibly thin ice. Like, this is last chance. Okay, this is...
If anything, is that tiniest after your shift? Because...
Got it.
Can I just say that I think the fact that the director never finishes his sentences is literally so funny. That's also a joke that still translates to now. 20 years later. Isn't that sick? 20 years later, and I was alive both times. Then and now. I am going to summarize the rest of Larry's L's before we get into talking about night 3 very, very quickly. Number 1, the pretty docent lady, Rebecca, thinks that Larry is making fun of her because she's doing her dissertation on Sacagawea, and Larry tells her that he has an opportunity for her to talk to her. And you guys know how I feel about believing people on things, it's easier to believe people if they say aliens are here, like, you might as well, do you know what I mean? Like, I think if somebody was like, oh, I'm stuck in a time loop, like, I would believe them. It's just easier to go ahead with the belief. This is perhaps the singular situation in which it would be kind of difficult. Not only that, but his son Nick doesn't believe him either, and he manages to convince Nick to come and hang out at the museum, but they're there and none of the exhibits are coming live. None of the exhibits are coming to life. Why? Because the tablet of Akhman-Ra is missing from its place on the wall. Guys, the tablet actually hasn't left the museum yet. Do you remember how I said that the old night guards were being weird? Right, so they're here and they are planning to rob the museum. Your Honor. They took Larry's key so that way they could plant some of the museum stuff in his apartment, because not only do they plan on robbing the museum, but they plan on framing Larry for it. I think that we should all acknowledge that jobless behavior has consequences. However, that's so nasty. Not only that, but they kick Larry's ass in front of his kid, But Nick does manage to swipe the tablet and turns the centerpiece so all of the exhibits in the museum start coming to life, and then he skitters off, and so now we have a chase on our hands. Larry comes out to the atrium to see that all of the exhibits are absolutely losing their shit, Your Honor. The Civil War soldiers are fighting each other, the miniatures are fighting each other, the animals are rampaging. What's going on? He manages to give a rousing speech to the mutinying exhibits, and that speech also includes this line.
You guys are brothers, for God's sakes. You gotta stop fighting. North wins. Slavery's bad. Sorry.
You're sick. You're sick. That's also kind of hilarious. He manages to convince the exhibits to go and find the other guards, so they round up Gus, they round up Reginald, but Cecil manages to get away because he takes a money carrier, this old stagecoach run by horses that only stop if they hear a secret code word. But Larry, who's been brushing up on his history, knows the code word, shouts out, "Dakota!" and gets the horses to stop. We capture Cecil, we get the tablet back, we have a very long scene of them being bouncers as they try to get everybody back into the museum. And while everything is definitely not put to right by the time that the sun rises, the director comes and is like, dude, New York has seen craziness on this night. There are caveman paintings in the subway. There are dinosaur tracks in the snow. There's a video of the Neanderthals just like pumping their fists on the roof of the museum, all of which is captured on the news. He asks Larry if he has any explanation. Of course Larry does not, so he promptly fires Larry again. But when they walk out to the museum, they see that it's the busiest that it's been for the entire movie, but we're to expect that it's the busiest that it's been in a while. So Larry gets to keep his job. We love to see it. Nick gets to hang out at the museum, riding the dinosaur, and we are partying like it's 1999 with September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Period. Okay? And we roll out of that song into the credits where a song by Keke Palmer comes on. Your Honor. And that's the film. Honestly, the first movie is a trip. It's a trip. I actually don't like it as much as I remember liking it. Like, I feel like when I saw it for the first time, it became very, very special to me, and it still is. If you guys remember my Russian nesting doll analogy, it sits in there with, you know, a lot of the different pieces of media that have brought me to a love of museums and a love of history, etc., etc. But I think in my head as I was watching it, I just kept comparing it to National Treasure and how much I love National Treasure. That movie holds up. Thank you very much. And I don't think that this movie holds up as much for me. As I said before, it was a box office success, but a lot of the reviews from the time were kind of so-so. One reviewer called Ben Stiller's acting running around, which is so fucking nasty. I don't know anything about acting, okay? The last bit of acting that I did was in my 6th grade play where I had 2 lines as part of the encore, the ensemble. And I just think that if somebody described my acting as running around, it would take a minute to recover. It would take a minute to recover, if I'm being honest. But either way, they made more of these films, okay? So strap in. We're on to film 2.
Why, these aren't real rubies at all. Ruby slippeth indeed.
Now, guys, I am going to be 100% honest with you, 100% transparent with you. This film is bad. Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, the second, and the Night at the Museum trilogy. It's so bad. It's so bad. What are the kids saying these days? It's chopped. It's chopped. And it's honestly insane because about 10 minutes into this film, I was like, oh, I think this film is a flop. I think this film was a flop. I think I'm getting flop vibes. If I were to do an aura reading of this film, it's giving flop. But either way, we have to talk about it because we have to talk about the third one. So, as I mentioned before, this film came out in 2009, once again directed by Sean Levy, once again written by the same writers that did the first film, which I'm like, Did you guys just give up when you were writing the second film? Or like, what was going on? Are we going through a hard time? In my personal opinion, this film feels like a bunch of jokes just kind of strung together. Do you know what I mean? Do you know when you're watching something or reading something and you're like, oh, they had this idea and they just wanted to get to that idea. So instead of thinking about making an interesting plot or instead of thinking about making intriguing arcs for our characters, they just wanted to get to that one place. And that's what this film feels like. It is truly, truly, truly just like a line of jokes one after the other. And I have to be honest with you, in the year of our Lord 2026, maybe about 5% of them, and that's being generous, okay? Maybe about 5% of them hit. It's really unfortunate. So this film stars the same cast as the first one with the addition of Amy Adams as Amelia Earhart, which is honestly a slay, and as many random 2000s funny people as they could possibly fit into this film. Why is Jonah Hill here? Why is Mindy Kaling here? Why do we have a 5-minute long exchange between Jonah Hill and Ben Stiller? I don't know. So the premise of the second film is that Larry is now a successful CEO of Larry Daily Electronics, inventing things like the glow-in-the-dark flashlight, you know, something that we all need. And he's kind of a flop dad. It's giving very, you know, tech guy has to relearn the values of family.
Hey, look, McPhee told me what's going on around here. I had no idea.
Indeed. A lot has transpired, Lawrence, since your last visit. One would say that... Oh. Cricket.
Especially since the exhibits at the Natural History Museum are getting replaced by these like high tech, they're like holographic and stuff like that, which is kind of funny given, you know, the era that we're in with generative AI. They're being placed into deep storage at the Federal Archives at the Smithsonian. Larry comes back and learns this information, you know, he's quit being a night guard. All of the exhibits are like, dude, what the heck? Where have you been this whole time? I do have to say that I think that the idea of expanding the whole museum comes to life thing to the Smithsonian is honestly really cool. I love the Smithsonian. Support your museums. So that is perhaps the only exciting piece about this whole film. In this film, we also meet Kaufman-Ra, which is supposed to be the older brother of Achman-Ra, and he wants to get his hands on the tablet. He wants to open the gate to the underworld and release his undead soldiers on the world so he can take over whatever. As previously stated, the plot really does not matter because it is truly just a string of jokes put together. For example, we get to the Smithsonian, we bring the tablet, our friends are there, Larry goes to the Smithsonian to try and save everyone, and while he's there trying to get the tablet from Kaufman-Ra, he tells him that there is a cube that's more powerful than the tablet, and he thought that he'd be interested in the cube since it's so powerful, you know, da-da-da-da-da. This man is talking about a Rubik's Cube. Your Honor. Also, Kaufman-Ra is like gathering goons at some point for his crew or whatever. And they are the classic capital B, capital G bad guys of history. Ivan the Terrible, Napoleon, complete with all of the short jokes. And Al Capone. Do they, like, can I speak my piece? Maybe that's for the adults in 2009 because would the kids know who Al Capone is? I'm not sure. I will say Al Capone's character is singularly cool because of the fact that he's characterized in black and white. So while, you know, the rest of the film is color, him and his goons are in black and white, which I think is a really cool choice and editing choice. So good job to the editors. You guys get 1 point, a singular point. But they also have this back and forth when he's gathering the goons for like 3 minutes where they're saying that Kaufman-Ra is wearing a dress and he's like, no, it's a toga or a tunic or whatever. And they keep calling it a dress. Is this funny? Is this funny? Is this funny to you? Continuing our poor taste moments for the jokes in this film, we have Colonel Custer of Little Fucking Bighorn as part of what is ostensibly the protagonist, the good guys of this film. You're sick. You're sick in the head. What's wrong with you? Does nobody read Indigenous history, or are we all just... We're all just vibing?
Not on my watch. Not on my watch.
Also, we have a romance angle, a relationship arc, if you will, between real person, flesh and bone, blood circulating all the time, Larry Daly, and sometimes person, sometimes wax statue, Amelia Earhart. Ew! Oh, you're sick. Oh, you're sick. The way that they try to shoehorn in this relationship, Your Honor, we don't need it. Also, if I can speak my piece, it's a kid's movie. So you especially do not need romance. If it was like an adult film, right? Or even something for older kids, teens maybe, I could understand you wanting to have a romantic angle because, you know, they're interested in it, they would care. If you are telling me that this film is for 9-year-olds, come on, be so for real. It felt so heteronormative in a way that feels very obvious and nasty and unnecessary. And speaking of the 2000s and being 9 years old, the Jonas Brothers are also in this film, which I guess that this would have been close to the height of J-Bro mania, which is so insane to me. I'm pretty sure that Camp Rock came out in 2008.
She's really good.
Which I feel like, and I've said this to my friends, I feel like I have an understanding of my consciousness becoming sentient around 2013. Huh? And so it really boggles my mind when I think about the fact that no, clearly I was sentient in 2008 or 2009. I'm thinking about even the Hannah Montana, 20-year anniversary, and I'm like, there's just no way that I was sentient during that time, but obviously I was because I remember this. As I said in my last video, time means nothing. So I have done a lot of complaining about this film. I have. But I will say that there are definitely some things in this film that I think are really cool, and they bring it back in the third movie. For one, the art in the Smithsonian also comes to life, which is really cool because that means that we can jump into paintings and photographs and be in the space that would be beyond that, which I think is really, really dope as a concept. I will say, in a little bit of a poor taste moment, they jump into that famous photograph from the end of World War II where the soldier is kissing a woman. The soldier is kissing a woman. There's been debate about how consensual that kiss is, so we're not here for it. They do have a moment in that photograph where Larry tells one of the soldiers that he's from Brooklyn, and the guy goes,
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm from Flatbush.
Also, Larry drops his phone in this scene and the guy picks it up. And later on in the credits of the film, we see the guy kind of like tinkering with the phone and he gets called by his mom. Wait for it. Joey Motorola. I don't even know what to say. And I can't even be that mad about it because I feel like, no, because would a kid know what a Motorola is? Would I have known what a Motorola is? It's kind of, you tell me if it's a good joke, okay? Also on the subject of art, the sculptures also come to life, which is very cool. I felt like such an art history nerd because I was like, a Jeff Koons, I know that one. Edgar Degas, The Little Dancer, I know that one. We also have the classic. If you guys thought that Dum Dum Give Me Gum Gum had a hold on the kids in 2006, so wait until I tell you about The Thinker. Okay? The Thinker's boom, bang, firepower.
I'll tell you what's the matter with life. That beautiful lady over there. Hey, baby, check out the gun show going on over here. Boom, bang, firepower.
That was legitness.
Yeah.
I can viscerally remember myself repeating this over and over again. Do you know what I mean? Like standing in a circle at recess, just like boom, bang, firepower. Like, that shit killed. That shit killed every time. Another part of this film that I enjoy are the moments that we get with Jedediah and Octavius. They are stupid bullshit moments. And by stupid bullshit moments, I mean, why do we have Octavius riding a squirrel? What? Why do we have Jedediah in an hourglass? I don't know, but I'm here for it. Jedediah does more of his classic reading people to absolute filth. At some point in this film, he calls Kaufman-Ra goofy, which is so fucking funny. Guys, we need to bring back goofy as an insult. And Black people do say goofy a lot, and I feel like sometimes it ranges from like, he's goofy, and like it's like, he's goofy. And anytime it's used more seriously, I think it's so funny. I enjoy it very much. And in case from these moments, from the earlier moments, you're like, Ayana, maybe this film isn't that bad. Maybe it's actually kind of... First of all, I don't know why you would think that. This movie is full of ridiculous moments. I will continue to chronicle some of the ridiculous moments that happened in this film. Thus, Oscar the Grouch and Darth Vader want to join what Kaufman Ra is calling his axis of evil. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States, of the Lincoln Monument, says that Amelia and Larry make a good couple. Octavius goes to the White House. Amelia flies a plane, and some random NPCs on the ground go, "A woman pilot? Preposterous! You're not even real." They find another monkey and get into, you guessed it, a slap fight. And most disturbingly, the big, powerful, climactic moment of the film where Larry finally defeats Kaufman Ra goes like this.
What are you? I'm the night guard.
We all just need to take a moment. So in conclusion, we, you, me, I, us two, futari, if you will, we're gonna forget that this film ever happened. We're gonna forget that this film ever happened. Okay? Just a little Men in Black memory wipe. And we're gonna move on to the final one. The final one. Let's go.
What's up?
Alright, guys. We are almost there. My arm literally hurts. Oh, wait, yo. My arm literally hurts because I've been holding my microphone up. I also did exercise this morning, so if you're like, Ayana, you can't hold that teeny tiny little microphone. No, I worked out, okay? Not too much. So the third Night at the Museum film, Night at the Museum, The Secret of the Tomb. This film came out in 2014, once again, directed by Sean Levy, stars pretty much the same cast. The actor that plays Nick is a different actor, but we have different writers as well for this film, which God bless, because I don't know what the last two were doing, but we needed some different lifeblood. And truly, it's a miracle that despite the flopness of the second film, they made a third one, even in the first place. And this film, while not as good as the first one, it's kind of okay. Like, it's kind of, you have to give it kind of this look. Do you know what I mean? We begin the film already with a different vibe than the first two. We're in Egypt. It's dusty. It's the desert. It's yellow because it's a representation of Mena in the fucking 2000s. So of course it's yellow. White people are digging shit up, as white people do. The whitest of white people, aka Americans and British people. And they discover, to no surprise, the tablet and the tomb of Kaufman Ra. Now, here's where my story inconsistency radar goes up, because we get a note at the beginning of this film that this expedition takes place. Am I okay? I think I'm losing it. We get a note at the beginning of this film that we learn in the third film that this excavation took place in 1938, but we were told in the first movie that the tablet and the pharaoh arrived at the Natural History Museum in 1952. Okay, so who lied? So we leave Egypt, we leave the desert, and we flash forward to whatever year it's supposed to be in the film. I'm safely assuming it's supposed to be 2013, 2014. One, because we see Jedediah and Octavius watching cat videos on YouTube. What? On a huge Mac desktop, which this scene is so silly. Why do they have this huge thing that they call the commenting apparatus? Also, why is Octavius's account called Octodaddy? You're sick. The museum is throwing a gala for their newest exhibit, which is a planetarium, which I think is really cool. Like, imagine the constellations coming to life. Mercury in retrograde. No, Mercury is right over there, babes. Unfortunately, the tablet has been getting corroded, so the gala is a flop. The gala is a flop. All of the exhibits start freaking out. Rexy is chasing people around and trying to eat them, although I don't know how much he can actually eat them because he is bones. But either way, it's not looking good. The director of the museum tells Larry that he needs to get it together with the special effects, quote unquote special effects. Hey, how is it that it is the third film? Presumably years of this happening, and you're thinking that it's special effects. What's going on, Dr. McPhee? Of course, the exhibits freaking out has to do with the tablet corroding, so Larry is trying to figure out what's going on, and he learns that one of the people on the original dig that found the tablet was none other than Cecil Fredericks. So now we have to go and chat with him. But here is where my very confusing math that I mentioned in the first film comes into play. If that man was 12 in 1938, and it is now presumably 2014. He's like 80 something years old. Even in 2006, when the first film came out and he was still working at the museum, he was like 70 something. Why were they not retired? Why were they still working? Listen, I know that every year the retirement age creeps up, but that's insane, okay? That's insane. Anyways, we get a cameo from all three of our old night guards, which is honestly kind of sweet. The night guard that played Gus, he actually passed before the film came out, so it's just very nice to see that they're all together, you know, minus if you forget the fact that in the first film they tried to rob the museum and frame Larry. It's all very sweet. So Cecil tells Larry that the way to fix the tablet is to go and talk to Achman-Ra's parents, aka his dad, who have been interned at none other than the British Museum. Guys, I have been to the British Museum, and honestly, it's not even a flex, because the way that 90% of the things in the British Museum do not fucking belong to them, Your Honor, including the numerous bodies that they have in this museum, I don't understand. I know that place is haunted as fuck. I feel it deep in my bones. It's haunted. It's cursed. Because why do you have so many bodies? You're weird. So now we're off to London. Quick pause to remind ourselves, not remind ourselves, I guess me tell you for the first time, Larry brings his son Nick with him to London, which is honestly not important, so inconsequential to this film, minus the fact that Nick's whole storyline is that he's now in his like teen rebellious, I don't want to go to college, I want to DJ in Ibiza phase, and I don't like it. If I can be so truthful and honest with you, there's kind of a background, you know, Larry is a dad that needs to learn to let go theme going on, which I get. I think that that's wonderful. I think that there have been numerous films where, you know, it's father-son, parent-child bonding. And I think perhaps if they weren't in some fancy apartment in Manhattan and Nick wasn't doing the whole, like, I'm a privileged white boy, and so I've decided that I'm not going to take advantage of the things that I have easy access to, and instead I'm going to do whatever I want because I can do it because I have money, maybe I'd be a little bit less annoyed. But I just find his character, I don't understand why his character is there. I think there's a better way to do the whole Larry as a dad learning to let go storyline, and I don't think that it's not interesting in the film, if you will. So just know that that's what's going on between the two of them. I'm probably not going to mention it again. So at the British Museum, we meet Tilly, who is the night security guard. She's also played by Rebel Wilson. Of course she is. This is the 2010s. We managed to get Achman-Ra and the tablet inside in a very clown car-esque fashion. All of our main characters are here with us, which of course they are. So now we need to make our way through the museum to find Achman-Ra's parents. Everything in the museum is coming to life for the very first time, so you get a lot of weird, strange happenings, including a triceratops that tries to mow them down. Luckily, they get saved by Lancelot, you know, the mythical knight of Camelot. In this moment, he calls Larry, or he says that Larry reminds him of his court jester. Actually, he says that Larry reminds him of his fool, which is not akin to Jedediah calling Achman-Ra goofy in the last film, but it's really close. It's really close. That's a funny ongoing joke throughout the film. Unfortunately, while Larry and crew were running away from the Triceratops, we lose Jedediah and Octavius. They fall through some air conditioning vents. So now we have two sort of like dual POV experiences going on. We have Larry and crew doing one thing, and then we have Jedediah and Octavius doing one thing. Larry sends Dexter with a phone strapped to him to find Jedediah and Octavius, because I guess in 2014, like, we also already had like geo-tracking on phones that you could set up. I have no concept of time. So while they're doing that, Larry and crew have to get past a 9-headed Chinese serpent of legend called Xianglu, which I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Somebody tell me if I'm giving the intonation, you know, I'm going up where I need to be. But they try to fight it. Unfortunately, as the tablet corrodes, first of all, Aquanra literally decays and Teddy starts turning back to wax. Lancelot manages to defeat the serpent. Yippee, yippee, yippee. While this is happening, Jedediah and Octavius end up in a Roman city miniature called Eampmop.
Yep-wop.
Eampmop?
Yep-wop.
Eampmop. Eampmop. Huh.
Oh. Pompeii.
They're in Pompeii. They're in Pompeii, and they get saved from the exploding, I was gonna say imponent. What is the word? That's not the word. They get saved by Dexter putting it out via, you guessed it, urinating on it, which it wasn't funny in 2006 and it's not funny now. We all managed to get to Egypt and we finally meet Akhmun-Ra's parents. And in this moment, it struck me that while the rest of the exhibits are wax or plastic or whatever, Akhmun-Ra and his parents, his family were real people. Like, they were mummies brought to life. And the profoundness of that thought really shook me to my core. It's very strange. It's important in the fact that we learn that Akhmun-Ra's father actually commissioned the creation of the tablet from a high priest back in the Egypt days. It was blessed by the moon god, and it's supposed to give them the power to be together after death, to have life together after death, which is why it brings things to life. And that makes so much more sense when you remember the fact that him and his family are like, they were mummified, they were people. I don't know where that sits the rest of the exhibits in my head, because obviously, like, it feels, I don't know, speciesist to be like, they were people and they were not, because they talk, you know, somebody could do their entire philosophy dissertation on that realization that I had. But anyways, Akhmun-Ra tells all of them this. They're trying to figure out how to fix the tablet. Akhmun-Ra's father is like, dude, it's a fucking iPad. Charge it. He tells them to put it in the moon. That is so silly goofy. So, unfortunately, during the time when they were hanging out with Lancelot, you know, the mythical knight of legend whose only purpose, only obsession is the holy grail of legend, which has the power to bring things to life, they tell him that the tablet is magic, so now he steals it. Very, very annoying. In this moment, we also have Jedediah and Octavius return, and Octavius says that Lancelot has hypnotic blue eyes, which is so silly goofy. It is very clear that in this film they wanted to make Octavius gay, but like weren't committed to actually saying the word gay. So instead he says things like hypnotic blue eyes, super handsome, etc., like wants to hold Jed's hand. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. Buck up, you cowards. You cowards. We know that he's gay. We know that him and Jedediah have been in love since the first movie. You might as well make it canon, because we will do it. In my head, jedtavius, my beloved, they're canon. Also, the fact that Lancelot and the actor that plays Lancelot looks like Jedediah, the actor that plays Jedediah, Owen Wilson, it's all very silly goofy. We're back. baby. We're back and better than ever. We're having a chase. We're running through the museum. We're jumping into paintings. You remember from the last film, we learned that we could do that. And unfortunately, Lancelot does get out of the museum with the tablet. And as he's riding through London, he's bringing statues to life. Now, this is where another great philosophical question has been presented to us from the Night at the Museum series. Does the tablet just bring any inanimate object to life? Does the inanimate object need to be sort of shaped like a thing that would be alive? So for example, as he's riding through the city, he brings these great like metal lions to life. Would it still work if he rode past like a candle shop? Or would it need to be like a china shop? What would happen if he brought the tablet into the house with a creepy conjuring doll? Do you know what I mean? Also, since these objects were already outside of a museum or outside period, do they turn to dust when the sun rises? These are questions that I need answered. If any philosophy student wants to do an essay about the implications of the Night at the Museum films and the tablet, let me know. Let me know, because I'm curious. So anyways, back to what I was talking about. Lancelot rides through the city and he comes across a play of Camelot held at the Palladium. And this is where we get a Hugh Jackman cameo, which is so silly goofy.
Huge Ackman? That's a ridiculous name. It doesn't even sound real.
Your Honor, so 2000. It's also where he realizes that nothing is real. Not only is that profound because, you know, he's a wax figure, but it's also profound because Camelot and like the King Arthur stories is also like a story. So it's kind of like, damn, double homicide. Do you know what I mean? He snags a torch of real flame and then runs up to the roof, which means that when Larry and crew get there and are arguing with him to try and get the tablet back, they're doing so while his like nose has melted a little bit because once again he's made out of wax. They're having this like serious conversation as like his nose is just jingling and he keeps telling them not to look at his nose. It's honestly kind of a fun back and forth. I have to say that is a joke that still lands. And now here comes the saddest scene in the entire film because our friends are not doing well, Your Honor. Achman-Ra, as I said, is literally decaying. Teddy completely turns back to wax. Dexter, like, curls up in the fetal position and, like, holds Larry's finger.
Oh my god, my Shayla. My Shayla.
Why am I crying? Why am I crying? And this whole scene makes Lancelot realize that maybe the Holy Grail were the friends we made along the way. The love that we found was the quest all along. And he finally gives Larry back the tablet, who manages to spin the centerpiece and charge it in the moonlight before everybody like dies for real and the tablet completely corrodes over. So now everybody's saved. Yippee, 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 yippee. We head back to the British Museum where the exhibits from New York have decided that Achman-Ra should stay in London with his family and the tablet since, as previously stated, his dad did all this work to try and keep his family together, though I guess fuck Kamen-Ra from the second film. Nobody cares about his brother, but anyways. And that means that the New York exhibits are not going to be able to come to life anymore, which Larry is, you know, understandably upset about. But then Jedediah says something to the likes of, people come in and they look at us and they learn a little something, and that's being alive. And I can barely put into words how much I love museums, how much I love libraries, our national parks, etc., etc. And I feel like for a line from a 2014 kids movie about museums and dinosaurs and like little miniature exhibits coming to life and such, that is so beautiful and so real. That is the point. That's the whole point, guys. Support your museums, your libraries, your national parks, etc., etc. And demand that your representatives support them as well. Thank you. We say goodbye to Achman-Ra. We head back to New York. Everybody's saying their goodbyes since the exhibits know that this is going to be their last night. And Larry says goodbye to Teddy, played by Robin Williams, and this goodbye really got me, Your Honor. Like, I was watching it and I was like, I am tearing up. This film was actually released posthumously for Robin Williams. He passed before it came out, and so like hearing his character, you know, motivate Larry and tell him it's going to be okay and etc as he says goodbye was really sort of extra touching in a really unfortunate way, if that makes sense. It gives me the same feeling as when I watch anything that has an actor that has passed that you like loved, and you loved the media, or you loved the way that you felt when you watched their media. I know a lot of people have a lot of varying opinions about Robin Williams, and I think I can only fall back on, you know, the characters that I've loved or the laughs that I've had because of some of his characters. So it was really touching, but also kind of sad now that I'm like an adult and can process those things. So yeah. But it's not all sad, okay? We do another time skip and we jump to 3 years later, where Larry has become a teacher. He's no longer a night guard, and the Achman-Ra exhibit is on loan to the New York Museum of Natural History. The Museum of Natural History of New York? The New York Museum of Natural History. I've been speaking for so long. The Achman-Ra exhibit is on loan to the Natural History Museum, which means that all of the exhibits get to come to life again and party it up to Got to Be Real by Cheryl Lynn, which I have to admit just might beat September from Earth, Wind & Fire from the first film, because that's iconic. Roll credits. And those are the films. What a fucking ride, Your Honor. I really don't like them as much as I remember liking them, but I think, as I said, they still have a pretty special place in my heart when it just comes to like childhood films. And also, if we're all being honest, if kids these days watch the film, if you guys watch the film these days and it inspires you to learn a little bit more about history, it inspires you to go to a museum or go to the library, etc, then the film did like what the film needed to do. Do you know what I mean? And that's it. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me on this, what I'm presuming to be a long journey. We'll see after I edit it. You can check out some of the other videos on my channel. I do other film recaps. I do some gaming. There's like a study with me up. So take your pick of the many, many delicacies there in my internet museum. I hope that you guys are staying safe. I hope that you're staying well. And I hope that you do a little learning today, whatever that might be. So thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye!